Guys, welcome back to Quick Notes with Chris. Today we're going to be talking about the personal, amazing book that I highly sided with. It's called Ego is the Enemy by Ryan Holiday. I highly suggest you read it, especially if you're one of those people that maybe do recognize that you are struggling with the ego and you might want to overcome it. Because basically the book talks about how every single successful person that ever existed is really, rather than a battle of achievements or battle between the enemy, it's a battle between their ego. It's a battle between making sure that they do oppress it, staying objective on the task and the goal that they're looking towards achieving with a sense of fulfillment that's followed behind it. Because so many times, if you ever do experience success, comes a high ego. You buy into the stories that you tell yourself and other people tell you, when in reality, at the end of the day, you're just a person who's out looking to achieve certain things. And those are the facts. And if you can stay on that, then you can take away the sort of emotional baggage that comes with the high ego and taking it away. Because it's honestly holding you back. Ego is a great thing to drive you forward when you're in negative situations. If you're ever in a negative situation in terms of a situation that you know that you shouldn't have to be doing, but you are having to do it. For example, let's say you are a millionaire, but you've lost all of your wealth, so you have to go back to the basics. And that ego is there saying, like, you shouldn't be here. You know that you're better than this, but you know that you have to go through this stuff that is mundane, that is boring, that you feel as though you're above because you've done it. But you're forcing yourself to go through it. That's when ego is really great. That's when ego is really applicable. When it's not is when you have those thoughts and you choose not to do those things. When your ego makes you feel as if you're bigger than the small things, when in reality, the smaller things are not bigger than anyone. In fact, if you're too big for the little things, then you're going to be too small for the big things, meaning that you're never going to experience the fruits of success. If you don't put in the work, you don't make sure that you're actively looking towards doing these things that are mundane, that are boring, that the lemmings are supposed to do, not yourself. Because the truth is that they are the fundamental parts of any business, any mechanical thing, no matter what. Like, going to the free throw line, shooting shots, making sure that you're there 2 hours before practice, those little things are what make champions. So you're never going to be above it. In fact, you should prioritize it above just about anything else. So it's ego, and putting it aside is realistically just putting your goals higher than the recognition. Putting your goals, your things that you're looking towards achieving, higher than the recognition. There's a really interesting story about George St. Pierre. If you've ever heard of George St. Pierre, basically he was a world champion in the UFC. He had back-to-back wins. He was the champion of his division, and basically the UFC put him against a sort of an easy fight. A fight that he thought he was going to wipe the floor with the person. Now, he was so conceited and so bought into his ego that all the things that the media were talking about, how he's like Superman and so on and so on and so on, he was like, yeah, I don't need to practice as hard. This is going to be such an easy fight. Now, fast forward to the day, in 90 seconds, he was bruised, battered, and defeated by this person. It was a huge upset. Underdog. It was like 11-1 in favor of GSP. And yet he absolutely got the floor wiped with him. And that's when he humbled himself and realized that he actually said, he was on record talking about how I believed the stories that the media were talking about me, when in reality I was just a person who was bred to be hardworking. And he basically utilized that and went on this spree of back-to-back wins, because now he all of a sudden wasn't believing the hype. He wasn't believing in the hype. He was following in the work ethic that got him to where he was, put aside his ego, and understood that he was no bigger than the little things. Because if he didn't do the little things, then he would be consumed and lose. So it's basically understanding that you don't want to look towards the recognition or the things that people talk to you about, whether it's the media and so on and so on and so on. You want to stay objective and grounded. Understand what you're looking towards accomplish. If there's anything that you need to do to aid towards that accomplishment, you're never above it. No matter how world-class of an athlete you are, no matter how successful your business is, still read those books, still go to training, make sure that you're there for whatever event that you need to be, especially when you're on the come up. Whatever you were doing while developing yourself, developing your business, still keep doing that when you're at your successful point to make sure you're constantly striving, constantly on the uphill. There's an amazing saying called, nature never stagnates, you're either growing or you're dying. So if you're not doing the things that you're doing while you're growing, then that just means that that you're dying. Like, your business is dying, your person is dying, you're regressing as a person. No matter what. The thing is, every single person is regressing, whether it's in age, whether it's intelligence. But the thing is, you can slow that down and increase it by constantly learning, constantly striving to becoming a better person. If you do it like every single day, like in terms of experience points, every single day you can experience an abundance of information. You have an abundance, but no matter what, you're going to lose 10 every single day. Every single day, you're going to lose 10 experience on whatever your character is. Alright? You always want to be striving to be above that 10 by a bunch, because as you get older, it regresses more and more and more. But you can constantly make sure that you're learning, you're polishing the skills that you've already created every single day. And it's always making sure that not only are you always hungry, but you have the disciplines. Because the thing about hunger and emotions and stuff like that, they're great things to feel with, not amazing things to make decisions with. You want to focus on the disciplines, the things that you have to do to make sure that you are staying on top, you are striving to become a better person. Basically, ending addiction towards approval seeking. Because approval seeking and recognition, they're honestly death to success. How many times have you thought that you did a terrible job, or you did a mediocre job in terms of your win or success that you had, but then all of a sudden your parent, your teacher, anyone who's in a peer group of yours tells you, man, you did an awesome job, and all of a sudden you feel fulfilled for something where you definitely could have done better. I know it's happened to me, I know it's happened to a lot of people. There's a saying that there are no two words worse in the English dictionary than the saying good job. Good job. If you ever read any books that talk about how good is the enemy to great, a sense of fulfillment for an average goal is all that's going to do is result in acceptance and mediocrity. Because all of a sudden you're happy with where you're at versus striving towards becoming better. Basically what I'm trying to say is you set your own recognition. The only person that you should looking to have the approval of is your mentor or yourself. Your mentor or yourself. Because those are the two people who should know you. Everyone else just, it's like running in front of a toddler, and then the toddler says, man, you're really good at running. Of course, because his personal experience with the sport of running is that he can't do it. So anyone that can is by default better than him. And that's the chances and honestly the likelihood of just about every other industry. So the only people you should take approval from is from your mentor or yourself, to be safe. To be safe. Now there's always going to be examples and exceptions, but for the most part, approval from yourself and your mentor. Everything else should be drowned out, and understand that they don't exactly know what you're looking to achieve. Your mentor and you should. So if you actively look towards only accepting praise from those two people in your life, then you can always make sure that when it's accepted and when it's given, it's when it's genuinely deserved. Now, the next thing that the book talks about is always being a student. No matter what, you can always be learning. And the thing about whenever you're in that student mindset is that ego doesn't exist. There's no room for it. There is no room for a baby to have an ego. Because if that baby has an ego and he starts thinking, I'm good enough to be walking, all of a sudden he's never going to learn. Right? Or the baby's never going to learn. So there's no room to be taught as an ego whenever you're a student. So have that student mindset. Understand that you can always be learning in every single situation. Be careful on who you take advice from, but understand you can always be learning in every situation. What I'm talking about is how you might want to second guess how to buy a home from a homeless person. Okay? Just because they probably don't know how to do it. But that doesn't mean that you can't learn from that homeless person's mistakes. So always understand that you can always be learning, but be careful on who you take advice from. Finally, ego makes you believe that you're too good for the little things. Going back to that George St. Pierre thing, because he was so conceited, because he was on the top of the world, he thought, I don't need to train as hard. I'll just do 1 hour of training versus 6, and so on and so on and so on. And the thing is, those little things, they compound. In fact, if you're too big for the little things, then you're always going to be too little for the big things. That means that you're never going to experience that success because your skill set is always going to be your reflection. Your skill set and character is always going to reflect your income. No matter what, your success is directly linked to your skill set and character. So if you feel as if though you're too big for those little things, then you're never going to experience those big things in life. Because the truth and the fundamentals of any business is those small, insignificant things. They are actually the significant things. Whenever it comes to a successful person, those small insignificant habits that people claim to be insignificant, compounded over an extended period of time, day after day, week after week, month after month, those are those things that end up creating success. Reading 15 minutes of a book every single day. It's not going to change who you are in 1 day. It's not going to change who you are in 2. But across a year, you might read 15 books and that can change completely who you are. So these small insignificant things in reality are the significant stuff. Because those small habits that you create are literally the foundations and the pillars of your success. Because it's so much to go out there and make sure you perform. But everybody knows that you want to make practice far harder than the performance. Because when practice becomes far harder than the performance becomes easy. There's a saying that I really like to always quote. It's that whenever you hit a sense of adversity, a task that you've never experienced before, or putting in a situation that you're not exactly ready for, you don't rise to the occasion. You never rise to the occasion. You simply fall back to your practice. So if you can make sure that your practice, the small things that is insignificant, is always greater than the task itself, then you never should be surprised. And you're always going to be well equipped and ready to attack whatever it is that you need to do. Whether you are George St. Pierre in the UFC, or you are starting your own business, making sure that you are perfect practice makes perfect. Making sure that you are ready and ready to go for the event that's up and coming. accept negative feedback no matter what, even when you win. Even when you win. When you do get that W, when you do get that win, that sense of accomplishment, always go back to yourself or your mentor and say, what is it that I could have done better? Anyways, guys, that's it for Quick Notes with Chris on Ego is the Enemy by Ryan Holiday. I highly suggest you go read the book because there's so much more that you can take away from the book itself versus the summary. But don't stop there when it comes to improvement. Keep looking at other videos that we have on the channel. Keep striving to put yourself in a better position for success. I'll see you in the next one.